Hello, PDA supporters and viewers. I'm Bill Bianchi, and we're doing another segment of our series on progressive voices in Chicago neighborhoods. These are the voices of people who are involved in the progressive fight in the neighborhoods. They're voices that we think you're going to want to hear. Today I'm on Chicago's South Side with Bill Drew. He is the leader of the McKinley Park Progressive Alliance, which is a group that is fighting the opening of charter schools here in the neighborhood. A few years ago, Bill was a volunteer neighborhood organizer with Rudy Lozano's insurgent campaign against the regular Democratic Party. And before that, he has a history of left activism. Thank you for talking with us today, Bill.
Glad to be here.
Bill, let's start with the McKinley Park Progressive Alliance. What is it and how did it get started?
I felt the need that we needed to formalize ourselves. We needed to not come in late in the race and scramble to try to put together precinct organizations, passers, runners, political education of the issues. What we wanted to have is something that would be ongoing, something where we would be able to train our people when they got up onto those porches, where they'd know what to say, and where they would have loyalty to each other.
And this is the McKinley Park Alliance.
Yeah, and it's actually very incipient. We've only just begun. I became aware that there was a proposal for a new charter school at 39th and Western, which is right on the other side of the park, right across from the swimming pool, and it seemed a little innocuous at first, but right
across from McKinley Park.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we should tell people where we are. I don't think everybody would know exactly where McKinley Park is.
Well, the boundaries of McKinley Park are between Ashland and Western on the east and west, and on the north it's the Stevenson, and then on the south side it's 39th Street. Okay. It's a relatively small neighborhood, and partially because of that, I'm really content that we have something that's of a bite size that we can work with and make a difference, and hopefully maybe even become a little bit of a model for other people by us doing a good job in this kind of circumstance.
So this charter school you heard about was going to be opening, and
it was something that started in Ohio by two Turkish educators, and my eyebrows went up. And I started to wonder, well, what would that mean? And it wasn't until about a week or so later, I originally, I began agitating, and I just kind of compared them to Uno. And I said, well, these are, bootstrap entrepreneurs that, are attempting to get in on something. But, as I began to hear more about them, I realized that there's a greater sinister feature to them, and it basically came from the researchers from the Chicago Teachers Union. And Jackson Potter called me up and he says, Bill, did you realize these guys are the biggest operator of charter schools in the world? And that they have 140 schools in the United States, and they're growing rapidly. And they have a reputation for and this is actually the biggest agitational point I use in the neighborhood. They have a reputation for bringing in Turkish teachers on fraudulent H-1B visas. The other thing that is a point against them is that they have a cultish style which goes all the way back to a right-wing Turkish political movement or social religious political movement that is vying for power right now within
Turkey.
Within Turkey, and
that's a strange connection when you stop and think about it. People from a group from Turkey starting charter schools here. Who in the neighborhood supports it?
Well, as you can imagine, every parent, in these times of declining opportunities, will look towards whatever possible advantage they can find for their kids. And they did fill up their school, with enrollments. On the other hand, the vast majority of the students in our neighborhood are still in public schools, and they are noticing that, and everybody knows this, budgets are being cut. Every time a charter school opens up, that means that there's less oversight. There's no LSC, and the LSCs that we have here, become less. They have less allies.
LSC is
Local school councils.
local school council.
The one remaining vestige of democracy in public education.
Wow, in Chicago, yeah.
Yeah.
So who then is opposing it? Who are the people in your organization?
Well,
I mean, it's already going, so who did oppose it?
right. Well, we had a very interesting session at the McKinley Park Civic Association. I'm a member of that group as well, and I invited a steward from the Chicago Teachers Union to come and explain his testimony that he had made at the City Council hearing where our alderman, George Cardenas, was sponsoring a zoning change so that a factory building on the other side of McKinley Park could be rezoned so that it would be used for this Gulen. Gulen is the name of the sect of this Gulen movement charter school. And he explained and caused everyone's jaws to drop because he told them that the new charter operators had secured 1,000 petitions in the neighborhood. Our people are all very close to the ground and had never even heard of this petition drive. The leaders of the Civic Association decided to actually go and talk to the alderman on his ward night. I went along. I didn't organize it. I went along and kind of ended up getting pushed into some leadership of it. But of course, George wasn't there. He may have gotten wind of the fact that we were coming to visit him.
The Phantom Alderman.
Yeah.
So was this, I mean, it is a little strange that charter school would be started by an entity that comes from a different country. What does the Board of Education approve this charter school?
That's very interesting. CPS rejected their proposal.
Uh-huh.
And they did an end around. They have very strong connections with politicians at the state level. For example, Mike Madigan, the Speaker of the House, had 4 trips to Turkey. Our former
4 trips to Turkey related to this Gulen movement, or he was just taking a vacation and happened to want to go to Turkey?
No, the not-for-profit Niagara Foundation, which is also a Gulen entity, sponsored it.
Wow.
The Jerry Chico, who's the head of the State Board of Education, his wife got a job as a travel coordinator for Turkey.
Really?
Through the Niagara Foundation, and these guys were instrumental in setting up something called the Illinois State Charter Commission. The Illinois State Charter School Commission is a body that was given the ability to override the decisions of local
school boards.
Local school boards, and that's what they did. They set up a special school district in Chicago that has 2 schools in it, and both of them are related to this shadowy foreign organization.
A special school district. And where does this school district get the money for these charter schools?
Their funding is actually in excess of what the CPS schools get per student, and it is from our property taxes.
Whoa. I'm liking that not too much. What is the future of this? I mean, are they going to try to open up more schools, or?
There were hearings within the past month, and the Gulen movement affiliated schools had a proposal for 2 more schools in Chicago, and they were both approved with some reservations. Mm-hmm. One of them is going to be not too far from here, about 54th and I think Rockwell or Mozart, and then there's another one on the far south side.
Okay. And then you had this program in the was it in the library that?
When we found that, George wouldn't talk to us directly, we did manage to have a conversation with him the next day. And George, I explained all of the things, and I used the, polite word that there seemed to be a appearance of impropriety. Mm-hmm. But what do you think the voters are going to say when they find out you bring all these Turkish teachers over to the U.S.? And he threw his hands up and he said, all right, we'll have an open meeting tonight. I said, tonight? How am I going to get my people to come to a meeting in one night? And but I had to decide, yeah, okay, let's do it. I didn't want him to say that I had turned down a meeting. So when I arrived, I came about a half hour early. And who was there? 2 busloads of students from the Northside affiliated school, and all of George's hangers-on, and went into the auditorium at McKinley Park, and I didn't see too many of our people. And sure enough, the little compact car shows up out front, and these young Turkish guys with all on with powder blue sweatshirts go out there, and they start loading pizzas into the into the field house, and they put on their show, and little by little, people from McKinley Park started showing up. Mm-hmm. The word was getting out amongst the network of people who have emails into all the local schools, and teachers were coming after work and starting to raise some angry objections. How much are you getting paid for this? And we felt like we won the battle that day.
Really?
That's right.
Right. Despite the pizzas.
We lost.
They probably weren't very good pizzas, right?
We lost the war because the following day, the zoning change was approved, mm-hmm. as aldermen can do.
Given that, who are the people who are involved in who showed up, who are involved in your organization? How would you describe them?
Well, the one thing I already said is that I put a high premium on people who are willing to work. Mm-hmm. In addition, because of the fact that the way the crisis is unfolding right now, it all has to do. There's a lot of emphasis on cutbacks to education. And so we've been trying to, keep really good ties with people in the Chicago Teachers Union, with people who, have children in schools.
I know you were sending out something about you were going to do something on charter schools, and the Illinois State Commission. I believe you had a program where you had some experts speak via the web.
That's right.
I mean, that got a lot of publicity, I think. I saw several emails about that.
It was our first success.
Uh-huh.
What we chose was to try to bring some light to an issue which is very confusing.
That's for sure.
There's a lot of hesitancy and reluctance to, if you don't really understand what's happening, to make some statements that, well, these Turkish schools are bad. It makes you sound like you're against Turks. Mm-hmm. And so what we did was we made connection with a researcher who lives in the Oakland Bay area. And my original idea was to actually fly her out here. Mm-hmm. But there's a guy in the 49th Ward where there is also another one of these schools who was already on top of it. I met him at a meeting where they were exposing some of the problems with UNO. And he and I connected, and I said, well, I want our webinar not to be virtual. I want us to have our people sitting in the library and watching it, which is what we did.
So now that the school is established, and what are your hopes? What do you see in the future for a group like MPPA in Chicago?
Well, we want to be on the ground and ready. when I worked in those other campaigns, I had my
On the ground and ready for political campaigns?
Take Back Chicago.
Or issues?
Take Back Chicago.
Uh-huh, okay.
You know, I mean, we have seen it with Occupy Chicago. We have seen it with the de Blasio campaign in New York. You know, we have memories of the Harold Washington campaign, and you know, we have faith that you know the people who are being hurt that they can be won over to becoming active and you know, throwing the rascals out.
Okay. Do you see this group getting involved in the 2015 municipal elections?
If we have a candidate, you know, that's really the goal.
So you think there's a little too much of an emphasis on the technical aspects of campaigning and not enough building the fire in the belly?
It's a good way of putting it.
Oh, okay, very good. So what do you think about, I mean, based on the experiences you've had now over the past 5 years or more, 5 to 10 years, what do you think about the future of progressive politics in Chicago? If you had to step back and say, is there any hope?
I do think there's hope. And I think the reason, well, I'll give you a really nice example. When we had our strategy meeting, the cut through the middle point of view that we arrived at had to do with, okay, we're not Brighton Park, we're not Little Village, we're McKinley Park. We have these issues with education. Let's become really concerned and involved as we can be in the local school councils. Mm-hmm. Last night at a Super Bowl party, I was at my in-laws' house, a couple blocks from here, and I didn't even realize that my niece is on a local school council.
Interesting.
She'll be at that meeting, at our next meeting. Mm-hmm. You know, we're planning on, you know, sending a contingent to the citywide meeting to learn more about how local school councils can do. And that's kind of the ray of hope that I see, you know, that, you know, people, and I'll even tell you that in our neighborhood, the Hoyne Park Advisory Council, the McKinley Park Advisory Council, CAPS has always at least 50 people in their attendance in this neighborhood. And the Civic Association has actually been a very good vehicle for me. You know, I decided to go beyond the Civic Association because they're not as explicitly political as we need to be. They would never consider anything that was, you know, precinct based, although, you know, we may not get to that point for a while ourselves.
As you know, there's the 2015 elections people are looking to with a lot of anticipation, both on the mayoral level and on the city council level. And there's a group in Chicago called the Chicago Socialist Campaign, also dubbed the Done with Democrats, who are going to try to run candidates in a few wards on a specifically socialist platform, which doesn't sound to be too much different than Progressive Democrats of America. What advice would you give a group like this that sees itself as a possible challenger to the regular party?
Well, I mean, the watchword is...
If they want to appeal to people in this area.
Oh. Well, then they should come and help us.
Okay.
You know, we're declaring ourselves as the ones who are going to, you know, take responsibility for this area. We had a decision to make, and I think most of the people agree. We could have called ourselves, you know, Independent Democrats of McKinley Park. We could have called ourselves, you know, Progressive Voters of McKinley Park. And we decided to call ourselves McKinley Park Progressive Alliance. The alliance being, you know, the employed and the unemployed, the old and the young, you know, the L riders, and the people who work locally, the Latinos and the whites, the Chinese, and you know, that's kind of the necessity is to, you know, learn what people's concerns are, formulate policies that can, you know, respond to those concerns, and then funnel it towards electoral.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill. And so there we are from the south side, from the McKinley Park neighborhood, with voices of progressive people fighting the good fight. Bill Drew, thanks.